All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quorum call.
Director Black.
Here.
Director Kreutz.
Excused.
Director Dakotas.
Here.
Director Heath. Here. Director Marian.
Here.
Director Moses.
Here.
Director Meserve. Here. Director Sargent.
Here.
Director Silvestri. Here. Director Welch.
Excused.
Chairman Carlo.
Present.
Mr. Nobile.
Here.
Ms. Hall.
Here.
You have 9 members present and 2 excused.
9 directors present and 2 directors excused. A quorum is present. Item 4, a moment of silence for Kim Ambrose, who passed away on January 7th, 2025. Kim graduated from Bonnie Eagle High School and went on to work for MSAD6 for over 42 years. She most recently worked in the lunch program at Steep Falls Elementary School, where she took great pride in feeding and caring for all her students. Kim enjoyed making jewelry and cooking in her free time. On behalf of the Bonnie Eagle community, we send our condolences and best wishes to Kim's family. Will you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the agenda. Director Sargent moves to accept the agenda. Is there a second? Director Marian, pending motion is to accept the agenda. Is the board ready for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? 9 members voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. The motion prevails and the agenda is accepted. Chair inquires if there are any members of the public who wish to address the board. Seeing none. Chair inquires if there's any objection to taking a series of matters out of order. Seeing no objection, the Chair will direct members' attention to item 9, presentation of the district's federal compliance audit. The Chair recognizes the superintendent.
Yes, good evening. So I will not be making this presentation, but I'll invite Ron Smith to come forward. And unless, Dawn, do you have anything you wanted to add before he gets started?
Just wanted to introduce Ron. He's the owner of RHR Smith. They do our audit, and him and his team are phenomenal at what they do, and we appreciate them, and I'll give him the floor.
Good evening. Ron Smith, principal of RHR Smith and Company. I believe we do 2/3 of all the school systems in the entire state of Maine and Vermont, like 2/3 of all the municipalities in Maine. So we live, eat, and breathe government. And I feel every bit of last year going from a firm of 38 to 84 people, just because of the world of auditing and disrepair. So I'm here to answer, to do our statutory responsibility to have an exit interview with your 6/30/24 audit and answer any questions you guys may have. So to kind of set the tone there, you guys had our highest opinion, which is an unmodified opinion, as of 6/30/24. We actually do 2 audits for our SU6. We do a financial statement audit and we do a federal compliance audit because you receive more than $750,000 in federal funds that passes through the state of Maine. That threshold the year after next will actually be going up to $1 million, so that's good. I'm not sure that that's really going to affect our SU6 and the body of our compliance work, but just to give you a little bit of history about some of the changes in our profession that are going on. We had couple of best practice findings, out there with purchase orders and disbursements. Really nothing that I think that rises to the level of me raising my hand and saying fire, fire. No, just things we've gone over with management. There just as last year with all the federal funds that came in, we talked about some procurement best practices to kind of stay up to date with language. So, and as far as the federal findings, nothing. We had nothing, out there, this year. Financially, this district on 6/30/23 pretty much landed the 6/30/24 plane exactly where you were on 6/30/23, and that's with about $10.7 million of carryover balance, of which the district, the cosmetics changed a little bit, between the $4.3 million of that 10.7 you used for tax relief for this budget that will end on 6/30/25. The year before, I think it was like 3.7, 3.8, 3.5, so that's traditionally, what this district has done. It's looked in the mirror, it's seen what it has for a financial portfolio, and you've always stayed within the constraints of the statute, which is really about somewhere between, 30 to 45 days of your operating budget in reserve that you have to, if you have more than that, within 2 years, spend it down. And I think you've been well within the parameters of that statutory balance, because you guys are using $3.5 to $4 million every year for tax relief the next year. You've got over $4 million sitting in capital reserve. I think that's great. I'd probably argue, from what I see, what I know, what I'm hearing out there, especially with the new president stepping in that's really trying to focus on some infrastructure. There's a lot of infrastructure money in this state. Capital projects, again, you've got a variety of things, set aside with over $4 million of a capital projects fund. For districts of your size and the infrastructure, I'm still not sure that that's enough, out there for some of the programs that are going to be available to you that I know are coming down the pipeline now that the ESSER funds are spent and expired. ARPA funds in the world of municipal and county government have been spent, obligated, or expired. That was the first priority for state government, is to get that money spent by December 31st, 24. Now their focus is going to be on the infrastructure package that was passed in 21 by Congress. But I think a lot of people are sitting tight with this next president and, just what he's going to do. With administrations, I understand he's already put a hiring freeze on at the federal government. It's going to be an interesting 90 days in the world of government, I'm sure of that. And usually that's what happens when you get a new president coming in. And I think it'll be interesting in the world of municipal, county, and state government for sure, and school government as well. You have a healthy food service fund, about $1 million of surplus there. The state, for lack of a better way to say it, has literally been looking for plans with any of these extra surpluses. I'm not sure that yours rises to the level. If that concerns some other schools, yes, not yours. So that pretty much is a summary and the highlights of the 6/30/24 audit financially. So, but I'm here and more than happy to answer any questions you had. All your budget line item cost centers, by statute, were underspent. So there are no issues there in the moving or reallocation of any cost centers. So this is, again, 2-3 years old, thanks to Don and Tina and the staff there in that business office. We really appreciate their cooperation that we can sit up here in confidence, and deliver this information to you.
Thank you for that overview. Are there any questions for Mr. Smith? Right. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the district's federal compliance audit. Director Sargent. Is there a second? Dr. Moran, pending question is to accept the district's federal compliance audit. Is the board ready for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? 9 directors voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. The motion prevails and the audit is approved.
Been a great pleasure. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Chair will direct members' attentions back to item 7 on the regular agenda, and that would be the student report, and the chair recognizes our student representatives for the purpose of providing a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At Bonnie Eagle High School, semester 2 has started today. Good luck to everyone. We're halfway there, so keep up the good work. I would like to give a special shout out to a friend and former student rep on the board, Ava Derier, for receiving special recognition from the College Board for her outstanding PSAT score. At the middle school, congratulations to the middle school, the winner of the middle school spelling bee, Joseph Bailey, a 6th grader from St. Clair Clan. In fact, all of the top 4 were 6th graders, so we can expect great things going forward. At Hollis, the NWEA standardized test will be held on January 28th and 30th, and the food drive has started today, so please donate if you can. And thank you to Mrs. Brooks for organizing it. And then from Buxton Center, Georgie Jack, Edna Libby, Steep Falls, and HB Emory, we have nothing to report. So, thank you.
Are there any questions for our student representatives? All right. Seeing none, thank you for that report. Nice to see both of you. Approval of the consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. Dr. Dakotas, is there a second? Dr. Sargent? Pending question is approval of the consent agenda. Is the board ready for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? 9 directors voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. The motion prevails and the consent agenda is approved. Item 11, report from the board chairperson. We have not yet set a date officially for the superintendent's employee evaluation, but information on that point will be coming, on that date will be very soon. And I would just encourage chairmen and chairwomen of our board committees, if they want to conduct their own committee evaluation on the superintendent's performance, they can do so in accordance with our policy. Just reach out to Clay on setting a date for that. We would like to have all the committees who want to conduct a personnel review to do so before the board does, so that we can take all that information into consideration. Are there any questions regarding my report? All right. Director Sargent.
I don't know if it's appropriate. I think the appropriate time would be to shout out for our business office for all they do and for the report. From a former business manager to a current one, it's all been seamless. Everything has gone very smoothly. I know, being on finance and facilities for years, anytime we have a question, they have the answers for us. If they don't have it at that meeting, they'll get it for us immediately. They're just a pleasure to work with, and can't say enough of the business office. Thank you very much, Don. And Tina, I guess, has stepped out for a minute, but you know, they had some personal challenges, and they came through it, and you'd never know it. So, thank you both.
Thank you, Director Sargent, for sharing those compliments. We have a tremendous team in the business office, and commend them for all they do for all of us. All right, are there any further questions? All right. Superintendent.
Good evening. So I would like to echo those sentiments. It's always nice when the auditor says you're handling the money well. I think that's a good thing, and especially district our size. There's a lot of books to balance and budget lines, and I appreciate the attention to detail there. So we have a couple of positive events here that happened to folks associated with Bonnie Eagle. So one is Bonnie Eagle High School teacher Beth Hayden was nominated some time ago. I think it was in 2023, but it was just announced that she was a recipient of a Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science. This is through the National Science Foundation, so that's a national honor, and there's a short list of folks that are honored with this, and one of them works for us. So congratulations to Beth for that award. So each awardee received a certificate signed by the president and a $10,000 award from the National Science Foundation. So that's a pretty big deal. The other, Boston mentioned this, there were a few other students at Bonnie Eagle High School who received national recognition from the College Board for their performance on the PSAT. He mentioned Ava DeRyer, also Aaron Babson, Egan Cabading, Harrison Dunn, and Dahlia Mueller. So the eligibility is students can submit in the 10th or 11th grade, take the fall or spring PSAT. They have to score in the top 10% of test takers from their award program in the state, earn a 3 or higher on 2 or more distinct AP exams in 9th or 10th grade, earn a cumulative GPA of a B+ or higher by the time of submission, and then identifying one of the sub areas. But like, for example, one of them is being from a rural area. So a high performer from a rural area is something that I think several of our students were awarded for. So that's a big deal also. So congratulations to those students for that honor and representing Bonnie Eagle so well. And then I have one retirement to report. Denise Rancourt, science teacher at Bonnie Eagle Middle School, will be retiring at the end of the school year. I remember Denise is one of the first teachers I met when I started in the district in 2002. So she's had a long career with Bonnie Eagle and has just decided it's time to do something different, spend time with her. I think she has a grandchild and is just looking to do some other things with her life because she has spent a number of years in service to Bonnie Eagle. So congratulations to Denise for her service. And that is the end of my report for tonight.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the superintendent? All right. Item 13, approval of the proposed 2025-2026 school calendar. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the calendar. Director Sargent, is there a second? Director Dakotas, any question is to approve?
Yeah, I'll just say Lori did a lot of the work on this, really all the work on this, but a couple of high points. 13 early release days, and we have continued to try to put them in full weeks of school, not in weeks where there's a partial week or coming right off of vacation. There were decisions to be made around where to place like Christmas vacation, because where it fell. I don't know, Lori, did you want to say anything about the calendar? Or I saw you were ready to.
Yeah, I just didn't know if people had questions, but it's pretty straightforward. And as you probably already know, we get together at a regional calendar caucus with some other districts because we have all of the districts that send to Westbrook Regional Vocational Center by statute, their calendars can't differ by more than 5 days from Westbrook's calendar. So we kind of all get together and build our calendars together. And, you know, there was great debate over the 2-week Christmas break because of the way the days fall, but that is where I believe almost every district landed in the group. And there is a typo under May. Obviously, we don't have 2 May 27th, but that's already been corrected since the packet went out. So.
All right, thank you for the information. Is the board ready for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, 9 directors voting in the affirmative and 0 in the negative. The motion prevails, and the school calendar for 2025-2026 is adopted. Approved, rather. Item 14, Resolution 21, approval to transfer 101 Main Street property to the town of Buxton. Chair will entertain a motion to approve that. Right. Director Moran moves to make that motion, and Director Sargent.
Just to remind the board, I think you all are pretty familiar with this process. It's been a long process, but we have long wondered how best to dispose of this building, and the Historical Society has a great affinity and interest in it. So they've been great tenants for these past years, but it just leaves them lacking with everything they want to do to be renters because they can't secure grants if they don't have a longer term stake in the property. Interestingly, we have sort of the opposite problem. We don't really want to take it out from under them, but we don't really want a long-term stake in a property that is going to have maintenance costs. So this, to me, is a win-win. I think along the way, we weren't sure this was possible, but the Historical Society footed a big part of the legal bill to research whether it was possible to parcel this off. I think some services were donated from folks in the community. The town of Buxton has worked with the Historical Society, so while this transaction is with the town of Buxton, it is my understanding that it is on the behalf of the Historical Society, and they will very quickly work out a transaction to transfer ownership to the Historical Society, which is not our matter, but I think that is definitely where it's headed. And I think this is the best outcome for everyone because the district doesn't need to be paying for a new roof, and any damages because of weather-related expenses, and if someone can use it, all the power to them. Part of the terms will be that we maintain parking privileges, and I think we agree to plow if we can always use it for parking, and they are happy to let us do those things. So I think it's a great opportunity and a win-win, and I appreciate everyone's involvement who's finally made this happen, because it's been years in the making.
Director Marine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I've been on the board for 6 years, and I think we started working on this about 6 years ago. I feel really, really good about what's been accomplished here. It's like Mr. Gleason says, it's a win-win for everyone. And thanks to Representative Carlo, who put in some legislation when we first started so we could change the terms of the lease. That helped. So we've worked together. I think we've dotted all the i's and crossed all the t's, and I really feel good about it, and I think we've done a great thing. Thank you.
Dr. Sargent.
Just for the general public, you know, when you have a surplus building, you don't just put it up for sale. There's a certain procedure to go through, and one of which is offer it to the town that it's in, charter school, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, Don, what was it, 50, 60,000 for a new roof on that?
Something like that.
And so we don't have to bear the cost of that. They have maintained it for all these years at no cost to us. This is a win-win because it gets an old building out from under us. And for the general public, it wasn't a chance to recoup financially, but this is good for the community and for the area. So thank you all.
Dr. Heath.
I'd like to, as a member of the Finance and Facilities Committee, really take a minute and thank the professionals and people. I don't know who worked in kind and helped with this project, but as my colleagues were saying, this has been a long time coming, and it's so wonderful that it was a true community effort and everyone contributed in the community, because we felt strongly it was not fair for us to take school funding and use it for legal fees and to try and zone things out. And so the people who were able to do that and give of their time and their talents, that was probably one of the deciding factors in making this go forward this time. And you can hear how wonderful it is and how much we are excited to have this finally go forward. So I want to just thank them.
And I would add that the Historical Society has been an excellent steward of that building. They've really done tremendous work on the interior and the exterior to improve make that a space that can be used by all the people of Buxton and Hollis. So just for the benefit of the public who are watching this proceeding, we've partnered with them, with the Historical Society, for a number of years, and it has borne a lot of fruit. So I will be supporting this motion. I'm glad that we are at this point. Finally, it's been a long road. And I would inquire if the board is ready for the question. All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? 9 directors voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. Motion prevails and the resolution is adopted. Item 15, Budget Advisory Committee Report of January 9th, 2025. Chair recognizes the business manager.
Thank you. The Budget Advisory Committee met on January 9th. We had a presentation on the nuances between budgeting for school, home, and a business. We also had a little school budget 101 where we kind of gave the overview of how a budget is made. And then I went over their sort of requirements for how one is made, and then we did an overview of how we do it here at RSU 6. Then we went over historical data over the last 10 years. And after that, Clay went over an enrollment and staffing review. And went over the future meeting dates and times, and then we adjourned. Our next meeting is the 23rd.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions for Dr. Moran?
No questions, but comments. Ms. Pooler and Mr. Gleason did a wonderful job of explaining budgeting 101 and explaining what much different it is from budgeting for a business or budgeting for a personal home and family, that schools are entirely different. So anyone who sat on in that meeting knows what goes into getting a budget and how much different it is from the way other budgets work. So I was very appreciative of it. I think they did a really great job. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? All right, thank you for that report. We'll move on to item 16, the Finance and Facilities Committee report of January 9th, 2025. The chair recognizes Director Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Budget Committee met on January the 9th at 3 p.m. All of the members of the committee were there, with the exception of Mr. Welch. He is an excused absent, and our student rep was there. There were no public comments. We approved the minutes and meetings of the previous meeting from the previous month. We reviewed the accounts payable and payroll warrants and approved those. Reviewed the top 25 expenditures. There were a few questions, and Mrs. Pooler provided the answers to those. She did the interim financial report for December of 2024. There was a question about money for vocational schools and the monies that were held there as a placeholder for expenses. And we've not needed to use those funds in recent years. So I asked the question if those monies could be removed to the robotics folks, and Ms. Spooler stated that it would require a board vote in order to reallocate those funds out of this article for the robotics. And Mr. Gleason mentioned that the board does have $10,000 in its budget to go towards activities if perhaps the robotics team were to go to the nationals, that maybe that's something that could happen. We did the dashboard for December of 24, and all expenses are currently where we expect them to be. And Ms. Spooler said that the revenues are showing where they should be for this time of year as well. There was some discussion about flashing school zone lights like at Georgie Jack's and those schools that don't have them, like the Hollis School does and a few others do, that Mr. Gleason is going to look into the process and the cost of the lights for the district for those schools that don't have them. Mr. Ingle Goldsby said there's an RFQ out for Energy Services Company, and he's getting bids for someone to come in and take a look at our energies and how we pay for those and how we get those, and the bids will be in and interviews will be done the end of January. And Mrs. Heath expressed an interest in being part of those interviews. We had facilities updates district-wide. We've changed our computerized maintenance management systems to a new kind of system called Operations Hero. And there were updates on various schools across the districts in progress of completion on repairs and maintenance, and reviewing of upcoming maintenance projects in the works. Future projects to include upgrades and preventive maintenance schedule for existing facilities, which was really a great idea. The committee really appreciated that. And budget building requests and supplemental requests are being worked on by Mr. Ingleby. The meeting adjourned at 4:07 p.m.
Are there any questions for the Finance and Facilities Committee? All right, seeing none. Item 17, the Policy Committee report of January 6th, 2025. The chair recognizes Director Dakotas.
Thank you. The meeting was called to order at 4:35. Excuse me. There was no public comment. The December 16th meeting minutes, were approved by the committee. And we began the first joint committee meeting between the Rules Committee, representatives from the Rules Committee and the Policy committee. And so we began a very close examination of the policies and the rules, which had been requested at the previous board meeting. And we adjourned at 6:04.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions for the policy committee? All right, seeing none. Item 18, resolutions for second reading. Resolution 20, policy code CBI, supervision and evaluation of the superintendent of schools. Chair recognizes Director Dakotas.
Thank you. There have been no further pieces of input, so I would make a motion that the policy be accepted as modified.
Director Dakotas moves to adopt Resolution 20. Is there a second? Director Reserve. Pending question is adoption of the resolution. Is the board ready for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? 9 members voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. The motion prevails and the resolution is adopted. Item 19, Negotiations Committee Report of January 15th, 2025. The chair recognizes Director Heath.
Thank you. The Negotiations Committee met on Wednesday, January 15th at 4 p.m. And we were meeting with the Saco Valley Teachers Association members in attendance. I thought it was the administrators. Sorry. I'm reading this and thinking, that's not who
Yeah,
I met
sorry
with.
for that.
No, that's sorry. We met with the administrators, and we went into, the meeting started at 4:05. We ended up having a great meeting with them. We went into negotiations and executive session, and then came out of executive session at 5:34. And then we scheduled our next meetings, our next upcoming meetings, to continue with our negotiations.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions for the Negotiations Committee? All right, seeing none. Item 20, upcoming Board of Directors meetings and workshops. On Wednesday, January 22nd, the Negotiations Committee will convene at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the Central Office Conference Room. On Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, the Budget Advisory Committee will convene at 6 o'clock in the afternoon in the Central Office Conference Room. On Wednesday, January 29th, the Negotiations Committee will convene at 4:30 in the afternoon in the Central Office Conference Room. On Monday, February 3rd, 2025, the Policy Committee will convene at 4:30 in the afternoon in the Central Office Library. And on the same day, the Board of Directors will convene at 6 o'clock in the afternoon in the Central Office Conference Room. Chair inquires if any members wish to provide notice of further meetings. Seeing none, item 21, adjournment. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Director Sargent? Is there a second? Director Dakotas. Pending question is to adjourn. Is the board ready for the question? Director Reserve.
Nope, I'm ready.
All right. All those in favor? All those opposed? 9 directors voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. The motion prevails and the board stands adjourned until Monday, February 3rd, 2025 at 6 o'clock in the afternoon in honor and tribute to Kim Ambrose.